The morning I found Paige's $80,000 Mercedes blocking my disabled veteran father's medical transport, again, I understood that immaculate white SUV was about to vanish for good. And the craziest part, she'd practically plead for me to take it. Picture this. It's 6 a.m. My dad's wheelchair van is laying on the horn. He's about to miss dialysis. And there's Paige sipping a skinny latte in her kitchen window, actually grinning at our mess. That grin cost her everything. Her car, her house, her freedom, and wait till you hear what her own husband did when he found out. What would you do if your HOA president turned your life into a waking nightmare? Drop your worst HOA horror below. I'm collecting stories from my attorney. Where are you watching from? Texas, Florida? Because if you've got an HOA, you need to know the 3 statutes I use to dismantle Paige completely legally. Trust me, after 47 blocked driveways, revenge served ice-cold tastes even better than you think. Let me paint you a picture of how this suburban war ignited. Because Paige Whitfield Sloan didn't just stumble into my life, she precision-targeted it like a heat-seeking missile locked onto joy. My name's Nico Santoro, 45 construction contractor who made the cosmic mistake of inheriting Nona's house in Cedar Ridge Meadows. Now, Nona Lucia was a legend. Back in '92, she fought the HOA, forming with the fury of 1,000 Italian mothers, calling it legalized extortion by board tyrants. God, I miss that woman's grit. 3 months ago, I moved in with my pregnant wife, Maya, 8 months along and still teaching 4th grade, because teachers are tougher than Navy SEALs. And my father, Vincenzo, a Vietnam vet who's been in a wheelchair since a construction accident aggravated old shrapnel wounds. This man built half a phoenix with his bare hands before his spine gave out, and all he needed was a simple ramp to visit his grandkids. Enter Paige Whitfield Sloan, the human equivalent of an HOA violation notice. Technically lawful, morally bankrupt. Day 3 after moving in. I remember because diesel fumes from the truck still clung to everything. This 5-foot tornado of suburban fury click-clacked across my driveway in $800 heels, trailing enough perfume to violate the Geneva Conventions. That structure needs architectural approval, she announced, pointing her French manicure at Dad's temporary wheelchair ramp like it was a crime scene. Her iPad case matched her coral cardigan, which matched her Mercedes, which matched her soul. Cold, white, and overpriced. My dad needs this ramp, I said, watching her tap that screen like she was launching nuclear codes. The committee meets in 6 to 8 weeks, she smiled. The kind of smile that makes sharks uneasy. I'm sure you can manage until then. That night, Dad tried the stairs and nearly cracked his skull when his arms gave out. So at 7 a.m., I rebuilt that ramp with every power tool screaming. By 7:15, a $500 fine appeared on my door, the paper still warm from her printer, smelling faintly of entitlement and toner. But here's what I didn't know yet about Paige. She wasn't just some bored housewife playing dictator. This woman was a real estate agent who'd turned our HOA into her personal lead generation machine. Her white Mercedes GLS 450 with its Rules 4U vanity plate serving as a rolling ad for her clout. She lived in the McMansion directly opposite me, a 6,000 square foot monument to bad taste with perfect sightlines to monitor my every code violation. Her husband, Andrew Sloan, owned Sloan Construction, my biggest competitor, though I wouldn't connect those dots until she'd already cost me $40,000 in lost contracts. The woman had a system refined over 8 years of presidential terror. Applied just enough pressure to break you without leaving fingerprints. Enforce rules selectively like a sniper picking targets. Document everything in triplicate while violating federal mail laws. She thought she was untouchable, shielded by Robert's rules, and her wine-drunk board members who voted in lockstep because she controlled their property values like a suburban puppet master. What Paige didn't realize was that she'd just declared war on the grandson of Lucia Santoro, the woman who once got a city councilman recalled for trying to zone her tomato garden as commercial agriculture. I'd inherited more than Nona's ramshackle ranch house. I'd inherited her Sicilian temper, her file cabinet of neighborhood secrets, and her absolute refusal to bow to bullies in any form, especially those in coral cardigans wearing too much white diamonds. Game on, Paige. You just didn't know you'd already lost. 2 weeks later, Paige declared war on my livelihood with a smile sweeter than cyanide. I was loading my F-250 at dawn when she materialized beside me like Satan in beige polyester, iPad clutched like a weapon of mass destruction. "Nico," she cooed, voice dripping fake concern, "we need to discuss your commercial vehicle situation." The way she said commercial made it sound like hazardous waste. According to the emergency HOA meeting held while I was pouring concrete across town, funny how emergencies always happen when I'm gone, all commercial vehicles now required screening from Street View within 30 days. Daily fines, $100. My work truck, the one feeding my family and paying my mortgage, was apparently a visual terrorist assaulting property values. "I'm sure you can make room in your garage," she suggested, knowing full well it housed Dad's medical gear in the wheelchair van. The woman's perfume cloud was so thick I could taste it. White diamonds mixed with sulfur. That evening, Dad watched me pace the kitchen like a caged animal, while Maya stress-cooked enough lasagna to feed a battalion. "They're playing dirty," Dad observed, war-trained instincts firing. "Question is, why is she targeting you specifically?" His words hit like lightning. This wasn't random. This was personal. Mini twist number 1. The next morning revealed the answer when 3 Sloan construction trucks parked brazenly on our street, their commercial logos bigger than billboards, completely untouched by HOA fines. Andrew Sloan, Paige's husband, my biggest competitor who'd mysteriously won every municipal contract I'd bid on lately. The pieces locked together like rounds into a magazine. She was using HOA rules to eliminate his competition. I spent 7 days building an airtight case. Time-stamped photos, GPS coordinates, enough evidence to bury them both. Even captured Andrew himself directing crews while parked in the fire lane. The hypocrisy reeked worse than hot asphalt in August. The next HOA meeting became my war room. I walked into that beige community center that smelled like despair, an instant coffee with a phone full of evidence and a spine full of Nana's DNA. Paige presided from her raised throne, flanked by her wine club board members who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. I moved to address selective enforcement of vehicle codes, I announced, hijacking the projector before anyone could stop me. The room gasped as images filled the screen. Sloan trucks violating every code Paige had cited me for, dates and times blazing like accusations. Paige's face cycled through 50 shades of fury, her composure cracking like dollar store makeup. "Those are temporary work situations," she sputtered, voice climbing octaves. "Your eyesore is permanent." The board voted 4-1 to uphold my fines, but their eyes screamed what their mouths wouldn't. They knew it was wrong. They were just too scared of their queen to revolt. Yet, mini twist number 2. My real ammunition came from Iris Merriweather. 82 pounds of pure defiance wrapped in a grandma disguise. She intercepted me in the parking lot, shoving a manila folder into my hands like we were spies, swapping state secrets. "Your grandmother was my best friend," she whispered, lavender perfume masking the scent of rebellion. "She knew this day would come. Clause 15, honey. Read it tonight." Her arthritis-twisted fingers squeezed mine with surprising strength. Nona always said, "The best defense is better paperwork than your enemies." The yellowing documents revealed Nona's genius. A grandfather clause shielding all pre-existing property uses from future HOA restrictions. Our place had run Lucia's landscaping since 1973, making it mixed-use commercial, making my truck untouchable, turning Paige's fines into bathroom tissue. Legal wisdom. Nugget. Pre-existing use rights override new HOA rules. Always demand the original founding paperwork. Your property's past might be your strongest legal armor. One sentence can save you thousands. I taped Clause 15 inside my truck window, surrounded by photos of Nonna Lucia running her business, including one where she's flipping the bird at the camera with magnificent Italian fury. When Paige's Mercedes crawled past that morning, I watched her face contort behind the tint, her mouth forming what I'm pretty sure weren't prayers. She'd lost round 1, but the way her hands strangled the steering wheel told me everything. This suburban despot was about to go nuclear. Wounded queens don't retreat. They reload. And my driveway was about to become her favorite target. Paige's revenge started at 5:47 a.m. on a Monday, because apparently malice sets its alarm early. Her white Mercedes sat diagonally across my driveway like an $80,000 barricade while she visited the neighbor whose house was darker than her heart. My 6:30 meeting with the Garcias, a $40,000 bathroom remodel that would cover Dad's medical bills, was creeping closer while I waited for cops, who arrived at 6:25 just in time to watch Paige materialize with Oscar-worthy timing. "Oh, Nico, I had no idea you needed to go. Marjorie had a plumbing emergency. Marjorie had been in Florida for 3 weeks. I knew because I'd been collecting her mail. Unlike some people who apparently steamed it open for fun. The missed meeting went to Sloan Construction, surprising exactly no one. But Paige was warming up. Tuesday, she blocked my concrete delivery, costing me $500 in restocking fees. Wednesday, she trapped Dad's medical transport for 38 minutes. The driver leaning on the horn while she, accidentally, left her car during urgent HOA business. Thursday nearly broke me. Maya, 9 months pregnant, stuck behind Paige's Mercedes while having contractions that turned out to be false labor, triggered by pure fury. Each time, Paige moved moments before legal consequences, and Thursday I spotted why. A police scanner app glowing on her phone between Pinterest and Wine Moms. She'd weaponized suburban tech against us. Friday evening changed everything. Dad held up our water bill with the precision of evaluating enemy intel. The envelope wrinkled and smudged. "Someone's reading our mail," he announced. "See the adhesive. Steamed and re-glued. In Nam, we'd have shot spies for technique this sloppy." That's when the pattern hit me like a 2x4. Paige knew our appointments, our schedules, our life because she was intercepting our mail. I'd actually read about this in an HOA horror story online. Mail theft is a federal felony, 5 years in prison, but proving it took more than Dad's forensic eyeball. The weekend turned me into a suburban spook. I ordered a magnetic GPS tracker tough enough to survive anything short of nuclear winter. I installed a hidden camera disguised as a landscape light, HOA approved, ironically, aimed straight at our mailbox. The bait, a fake appointment letter from Glendale Medical Associates for Tuesday at 2 p.m., placed temptingly in the box like cheese for a very entitled mouse. Monday's footage was art. Paige, in a $300 yoga outfit, snapping photos of our mail at 6 a.m. before pocketing the medical decoy entirely. I remembered my cousin Tino saying federal prosecutors love mail theft, slam dunk cases with mandatory minimums. And suddenly it felt like Christmas came early. Tuesday at 1:45, her Mercedes blocked my driveway with atomic clock reliability. I let her marinate in her smugness for 20 minutes, then approached with my phone recording. "I need to leave for my appointment," I said sweetly. Her smirk could curdle milk. "What appointment?" I raised an identical envelope, the Glendale Medical Associates one. Same as the one that vanished from my mailbox yesterday, the one currently resting on your passenger seat between the Starbucks cups and HOA violation forms. Watching her face collapse was better than pay-per-view boxing. While she scrambled for alibis, I crouched to attach my note to her bumper. Actually, the GPS tracker snapping into place with the satisfaction of chambering around. "Drive safe, Paige. Expired tags are pricey, aren't they?" Her registration sticker was 6 months out of date, which I'd noticed while she was busy committing federal crimes. She peeled out like a teenager caught vaping, leaving rubber and the stench of burnt entitlement. That tracker became my window into Paige's criminal routines. Over the next week, it showed her Mercedes regularly in handicapped spaces, fire lanes, and at the DMV where, thanks to beautiful public records, I discovered her license was suspended from last year's DUI. The woman citing us for violations was driving illegally everywhere, like a health inspector with food poisoning. A contractor buddy had warned me about people like this. The loudest rule enforcers are usually the biggest rule breakers. Projection, pure and simple. During one of her driveway blocking episodes while she was terrorizing Kumars about their rose bushes, I glimpsed inside her car. The glove box overflowed with tickets, court notices, and final demands. Empty wine bottles hid under designer bags, and the whole interior reeked of Pinot Grigio and poor decisions. This wasn't just hypocrisy, this was artillery. Every citation she'd issued while driving on a suspended license was legally tainted. Every HOA fine she'd pushed while committing crimes herself was grounds for a lawsuit. I'd been playing defense against someone who didn't even have a legal right to be on the field. The battlefield was shifting, and Paige didn't know it yet. She thought she was fighting a contractor with a truck. She was actually fighting someone who just discovered her glass house stood on quicksand, and I was about to start hurling boulders. Paige's nuclear option detonated on a Tuesday morning when a white van marked Adult Protective Services rolled into my driveway. The social worker, a weary woman gripping a clipboard like a life preserver, explained that someone had reported serious concerns about an elderly veteran being neglected in unsafe conditions. Anonymous tip, of course, but I could smell Paige's perfume on this attack from across the street, where she pretended to water already dead petunias while watching our humiliation unfold. Dad handled the inspection with military calm until they reached his medication questions. Then something broke. "My boy takes better care of me than the VA ever did," he said, voice trembling, hands shaking. Not from age, but from fury mixed with flashbacks. "I didn't survive 68 to be treated like a child by some—" He stopped, jaw locked, as the social worker photographed his living space like a crime scene. That night, his PTSD nightmares returned for the first time in years. I heard him calling for his squad at 3 a.m., trapped in a jungle that existed only in memory, and Paige's cruelty. 2 days later, Maya called me from her classroom, sobbing so hard I could barely understand. "Nico, someone reported me to CPS. They said I was recklessly endangering our baby, driving dangerously. They showed up at school, pulled me out in front of my students. My pregnant wife, who'd never gotten a speeding ticket, was interrogated about her fitness as a mother because Paige had apparently followed her to work, photographing her going 28 in a 25. The stress spiked Maya's blood pressure so high, her doctor ordered immediate bed rest. False labor struck again that night, and I spent 6 hours in the ER wondering if Paige's vendetta would cost us our baby. That's when I discovered Paige's mistake. She'd gotten cocky, sloppy. Hospital security pulled me aside and showed me footage from their garage. Paige's Mercedes following Maya's car for 20 minutes, lurking like a designer-clad stalker. The security chief, a former Marine who'd bonded with Dad, handed me a DVD copy. "Might want to file a restraining order," he said. "This looks like harassment to me." But I had bigger plans. My contractor network runs deep. We build houses. We solve problems. We know everyone's business. 3 phone calls revealed Paige's history. 5 addresses in 10 years. Always leaving after neighborhood wars. Tommy from Elite Plumbing remembered her from Scottsdale. She got the HOA president arrested for embezzlement, then took over. A year later, she was gone, and $40,000 was missing. Mike, the electrician, had worse. Willow Creek subdivision. She reported 6 families to CPS before someone proved she was lying. She vanished before charges landed. The pattern was clear. Paige was a serial neighborhood terrorist. But the real gold came from Iris during one of our weekly intel swaps in the produce aisle. "Did you know our Paige owes the HOA $47,000? She whispered over the bananas. "President exemption," she calls it. "Hasn't paid dues in 8 years while fining everyone else for being a day late." Iris's nephew, who worked at a title company, had pulled records showing Paige's house carried 3 liens and a pending foreclosure notice. The real estate agent lecturing us about property values was drowning in debt and using HOA funds as her piggy bank. That night, our kitchen became a war room. Dad, fueled by righteous anger, had connected with other victims through the VA center. Turned out Paige had targeted 3 other veteran families. Maya, from her bed rest command post, created a Facebook group that gained 50 members in 2 hours. Victims of Paige became a support group and intelligence network. The Kumar family shared how she'd reported their Diwali decorations as gang symbols. The Garcias revealed she'd called the health department on their daughter's lemonade stand. Even the quiet Korean family posted videos of Paige screaming about their cooking smells. Every story painted the same picture: a bigot with a badge abusing power to torment anyone different. The CPS investigator returned that week and I was ready. His name was James Martinez, a Vietnam vet with eyes that had seen too much bureaucratic cruelty. When he saw Dad's service medals and heard about the APS harassment, something shifted in his face. "I've seen this before," he said quietly. "Serial false reporters targeting military families, minorities, anyone vulnerable. It's predatory." He handed me his card with his personal cell scribbled on the back. When you nail her, and you will, call me. I'll testify about the false reports. People like her make our job harder, hurt real victims. As he left, he paused. Your dad reminds me of my sergeant. Take care of him, and take her down. The pieces were lining up like dominoes waiting to fall. Financial fraud, mail theft, false reports, stalking, civil rights violations. Paige had built an empire of crimes, thinking her HOA throne made her untouchable. She didn't know about our growing alliance, our documented evidence, or that her precious annual HOA gala was 3 weeks away. The same gala where she schmoozed real estate clients, played queen to potential buyers, and cared more about her image than anything else. Iris had secured us 3 invitations, and I had contractor friends who specialized in audiovisual setups. Paige loved the spotlight. We were about to make sure she got one she'd never forget. The breakthrough came at 2 a.m. on a sleepless Thursday while I was digging through HOA documents like a detective possessed. Buried in subsection 47C of our insurance policies, the kind of mind-numbing legalese designed to stop anyone from reading, I found the golden bullet that would end Paige's reign. My hands actually shook as I read it 3 times to make sure I wasn't dreaming. According to the HOA's own automotive coverage policy, any vehicle on HOA common property could be towed if it met 3 criteria: blocking emergency access, unregistered or uninsured, or posing a safety hazard. The kicker? Paige's driveway, that concrete pad where her Mercedes sat like a throne, wasn't actually her property. A surveyor's error in 2003 had placed her driveway 6 feet into HOA common area, a mistake no one had caught because who checks surveys after construction? Paige had been illegally parking on community property for 15 years, while fining others for infractions that didn't even exist. I called Rodrigo at dawn, my best friend since high school, who now owned Rodriguez Recovery, the most successful towing company in the county. Hermano, you awake? I asked. For you? Always. What's the target? When I explained, his laugh was pure joy. The white Mercedes? The one whose owner called my truck visual pollution at the city council meeting? Oh, this is destiny, brother. Everything by the book, legal as Sunday Mass. The beauty was in the simplicity. State law said vehicles with suspended registration on public property could be immediately impounded. HOA bylaws, the ones Paige wrote herself in her power-drunk arrogance, stated the board president must enforce all regulations equally, without exception. She'd created a legal bear trap and parked her own foot in it every single day. Her suspended license, expired registration, and illegal parking made her Mercedes a towing company's dream score. But the revelation went deeper. That survey error meant Paige had been collecting HOA violation fines while simultaneously violating HOA rules more egregiously than anyone. Every single fine she'd issued while parked illegally was potentially void. Every board meeting she'd run from her position of hypocrisy was grounds for a lawsuit. I felt like an archaeologist discovering a tomb full of legal gold. Dad listened to my explanation over morning coffee, his tactical mind immediately seeing the angles. It's like she built a minefield, then forgot her own map, he mused. Pride before the fall, boy. Same in war, same in HOAs. Maya, still on bed rest but sharp as ever, added the crucial insight. The gala. She'll park there for sure, probably in a fire lane for her grand entrance. Maximum witnesses, maximum humiliation. The annual HOA gala was Paige's coronation, where she held court for clients and renewed her grip on power. 300 people would attend, including local media covering the community event. I spent the next week preparing legal documentation with the precision of a surgeon. Every form Rodrigo would need, every justification, every piece of evidence organized and copied. The law was beautiful in its clarity. We weren't just allowed to tow her car, we were technically obligated to once we knew about the violations. As HOA members aware of illegal activity on common property, failing to act made us complicit. Paige's own rules demanded her downfall. The final piece clicked into place when I discovered subsection 47C, paragraph 9. In cases of vehicles towed from common areas, The HOA board president is personally liable for all fees, storage costs, and associated legal expenses if said vehicle was parked with their knowledge or consent. Since Paige couldn't claim ignorance of her own parking, she'd be personally on the hook for every penny. At Rodriguez Recovery's premium illegal impound rates, $500 hook fee, $200 per day in storage, plus administrative costs, her Mercedes would generate bills that made her mortgage look reasonable. Rodrigo and I met at his yard to plan the operation, surrounded by the mechanical poetry of tow trucks and the smell of diesel-fueled justice. "We do this clean," he said, patting his truck's hood. "Cameras rolling, paperwork flawless, by the absolute letter of the law. When she screams lawsuit, I want to hand her the statute she wrote herself. We practiced approach angles and the fastest hookup method, the precise route to avoid any legal ambiguity. This wasn't revenge. This was law enforcement. The fact that it would happen at her gala, in front of everyone she'd tormented, in full view of news cameras she'd invited, well, that was just karma, with impeccable timing. Our revolution was headquartered in my garage, which smelled of motor oil and righteous fury. Within a week, it became the unofficial base of the anti-Paige resistance, complete with whiteboards, laptops, and enough coffee to fuel a small nation. The alliance grew faster than black mold in a neglected rental. 12 households officially joined, with more signing on daily as word spread like wildfire. Iris Merriweather became our inside operative, maintaining her facade of harmless old lady while gathering intelligence like a geriatric James Bond. "Paige trusts me because I bring her zucchini bread," she explained, eyes sparkling with mischief. "She has no clue. I've been recording every confession she makes about dealing with the problem neighbors." Raj Patel, our forensic accountant by day and HOA victim by night, spent 3 weeks dissecting financial records with the dedication of someone fined $500 for having the wrong shade of beige mailbox. The Garcias, a tech-savvy couple Paige had harassed over their solar panels, handled our digital evidence compilation, creating a secure cloud server they nicknamed Paige Leaks. The real coup was Mike Brennan, our mailman of 15 years who'd watched Paige rifle through mail slots like a raccoon with a real estate license. "Federal postal inspectors have been waiting for a case like this," he told me over beers in my garage. "Mail theft by an HOA official. That's Christmas morning. I've been documenting every complaint, snapping photos of tampered boxes. Your girl's staring down federal time." He'd already submitted reports, just waiting for our signal to escalate. My lawyer, Gavin Chen, who'd offered free consultations after Paige tried to fine him for his ethnically inappropriate koi pond, laid out our legal strategy with surgical precision. We filed an HOA records request first, forcing them to produce everything. Then we hit them with the survey discrepancy, the financial audit demand, and a compilation of false reports to agencies. Death by 1,000 paper cuts, all perfectly legal. Gavin had already drafted 17 separate motions, each one a torpedo aimed at Paige's empire. The best part, HOA bylaws required them to pay legal fees for any member requests that uncovered board misconduct. Our tactical preparations consumed every night. We installed hidden cameras at strategic points, all on private property, all perfectly legal, creating a surveillance network that would make a casino jealous. The Garcias wrote a program that synced all footage to timestamps, creating an indisputable record of Paige's movements. Rodrigo contributed GPS trackers for the tow trucks, ensuring perfect documentation of the route from gala to impound. "If she claims we damaged her car or took anything," he explained while installing his 7th dash cam, "we'll have video from 16 angles proving otherwise." Dad turned our operation into a military exercise complete with code names and synchronized watches. He rallied 5 other veterans from the VA center, all of whom had their own horror stories about Paige's harassment. Operation Tow Freedom, he called it, sketching attack plans like he was back in tactical ops. His contribution was simple but brilliant. A phone tree that could mobilize 40 witnesses within 10 minutes. When that Mercedes gets hooked, I want every phone rolling. Multiple angles, undeniable evidence. Maya, despite doctor's orders for bed rest, became our intelligence analyst. "Look at this pattern," she said one night, laptop balanced on a pregnant belly, showing charts that look straight out of an FBI field office. Paige's violations spike around the 1st and 15th, paydays. She's using fines as income supplements. She identified 23 households slapped with suspicious fines right before Paige's mortgage payments were due. It's a shakedown racket disguised as community standards. Her teacher's knack for organization created a database that would make prosecutors weep with joy. The printer in my garage ran so hot it warmed the room, churning out evidence packets thick enough to wallpaper a courtroom, financial irregularities highlighting $186,000 in miscellaneous expenses that matched Paige's credit card statements, time-stamped photos of her Mercedes in handicapped spots at 12 locations, transcripts of her HOA meetings where she admitted targeting certain neighbors. Each packet was a prosecutor's dream. 3 nights before the gala, we held our final strategy meeting. 43 people crammed into my garage, sharing stories that would horrify anyone who believed in basic decency. The Korean family she'd reported for suspicious gatherings, family dinners. The black veteran she'd called the cops on for loitering, checking his own mail. The elderly Jewish couple fined for their mezuzah, an unapproved door modification. Every story hardened our resolve. This wasn't just about my family anymore. This was about everyone who'd ever been bulldozed by a petty tyrant with a clipboard. Remember, I told the group, everything we do is legal, documented, justified. We're not vigilantes. We're citizens enforcing our own bylaws when our president won't. When that tow truck arrives, I want calm, legal, peaceful observation. Let Paige be the one who loses control, and she will. The room buzzed with anticipation, electric like the air before a thunderstorm. Everyone knew their role, their timing, their position. We'd turned Paige's greatest weapons documentation, organization, and obsessive rule-following against her. The gala was in 72 hours. The trap was set with Swiss watch precision. Paige thought she was preparing for her annual coronation. Instead, she was about to star in her own public downfall, directed by the very people she'd tormented, produced by the bylaws she'd weaponized, and broadcast to anyone who cared to watch. Rodrigo cleared his schedule, his best driver on standby. The truck polished until it gleamed like justice itself. We were ready. Paige just didn't know it yet. Paige must have sensed danger the way animals sense earthquakes because 3 days before the gala, she launched a desperate offensive that would have impressed Patton. It started when I found my truck sitting on blocks, all 4 tires slashed with surgical precision. The security footage showed a figure in black at 3 a.m., but conveniently spray paint had covered 3 of my 4 cameras just minutes before. The 4th camera, hidden inside a birdhouse Maya built at summer camp 20 years ago, caught everything in crystal clarity, including Paige's distinctive French manicure gripping the knife. She's escalating, Dad observed, examining the damage like a battlefield investigator. Seen this in combat. When rats are cornered, they bite. The replacement tires cost $1,200, but the insurance claim would be interesting. How do you explain your HOA president committing felony vandalism? Then came the call from my biggest client. Nico, I'm sorry, but we're going with another contractor. Someone sent us disturbing information about your business practices. The disturbing information was an anonymous blog called The Truth About Santoro Construction, complete with photoshopped images implying code violations and safety hazards that didn't exist. The blog was hosted on the HOA's official website server, a detail Paige apparently forgot while committing cyber defamation. The Garcias traced the IP address to HOA board meetings timestamped to when Paige would have been present. She'd literally defamed me using HOA resources during official sessions, adding wire fraud to her growing list of felonies. But the real shock came when 5 more clients called within 2 days, canceling contracts worth over $200,000 total. She was trying to bankrupt me before the gala. Rodrigo called Wednesday night, voice tight with controlled anger. Someone offered me $5,000 to refuse any tow calls from Cedar Ridge Meadows this weekend. Cash, untraceable, very professional. He'd recorded the entire conversation on his phone, including the part where the caller mentioned consequences if he didn't comply. Thing is, hermano, they called from the HOA office line. Caller ID doesn't lie. We added witness tampering and bribery to Paige's rap sheet, which was starting to look like a criminal law textbook. Thursday brought the cruelest blow yet. Maya called me sobbing from the elementary school. Nico? Someone called CPS again. They pulled both kids out of class, interrogated them about our home life, asked if mommy and daddy ever hurt them, if they felt safe, if there were drugs in the house. Our babies are terrified. The investigator was apologetic but thorough. The report alleged specific details that required investigation. I raced to the school to find my 8-year-old son crying, asking why the lady wanted to know if daddy hit mommy. My daughter, only 6, kept repeating that she promised we were nice parents. That's when something inside me snapped. But it was a cold snap, the kind that turns coal into diamonds. I called James Martinez, the CPS investigator who'd given me his card. "It's happening again," I said simply. "Same false reporter?" he asked, voice hardening. "Same pattern, same timing. Right before a major HOA event where we're planning to expose financial crimes?" There was a pause, then, "File a police report immediately. I'll add my statement about the pattern of false reports. This is witness intimidation using state resources. The DA takes that very seriously." He was right. Page had crossed from civil harassment into criminal territory. The detective who took our report was an HOA victim himself. "Let me guess," he said, flipping through our stack of evidence. "President runs it like a personal kingdom. Selective enforcement. Targets anyone who questions them." His own HOA had sued him for planting the wrong grass species. He took extra care documenting everything, especially the cybercrimes. Blog posts during HOA meetings using HOA servers? That's embezzlement of services and wire fraud. Federal prosecutors love wire fraud. It's their bread and butter. But Page saved her masterstroke for Friday morning, 24 hours before the gala. I was reviewing final preparations when Iris called, breathless with urgency. "Emergency HOA board meeting in 1 hour. Page is trying to pass new bylaws, ban recording devices at all HOA events, prohibit members from hiring tow services without board approval, and make it illegal to gather in groups larger than 4 on HOA property." She was literally trying to legislate away our entire plan, using her presidential powers to shield herself from consequences. The meeting was a circus of desperation. Page presided like a dictator sensing revolution, makeup slightly smeared, voice pitched too high. "These measures are necessary to protect our community from organized harassment," she stammered. Clearly reading from notes, the 4 board members shifted uncomfortably as more than 40 homeowners packed the small room. When she called for an immediate vote without discussion, violating Robert's rules, Dr. Patel stood. "Point of order, Madam President. Bylaws require 30 days' notice for any voting measure. Page 47, Section 3. Page's face cycled from red to purple. "I'm invoking emergency powers for community safety." "What emergency?" Iris asked sweetly. "The gala tomorrow? That's been on the calendar for months." The board voted down all 3 measures, 4-0-1, with only Page supporting her own coup attempt. Even her wine club allies could smell the desperation. As the meeting collapsed into chaos, Page made one last announcement. "Anyone who disrupts tomorrow's gala will be prosecuted for trespassing." Gavin Chen, our lawyer, rose with theatrical calm. "Actually, Page, the gala is a public HOA event on common property. Every dues-paying member has equal right to attend and document. Page 15, Section 8 of the bylaws. You wrote them yourself." She fled the meeting like her hair was on fire, but not before I saw something in her eyes that confirmed everything. Pure, undiluted fear. She knew we had something planned, but not what. The unknown was eating her alive. That night, our group chat buzzed with updates. Cameras charged, positions confirmed, witnesses ready. The news crew covering the community gala had been tipped about potential drama. Rodrigo's truck was polished and positioned 5 minutes away. Everything was set for Saturday night's show. Page had spent weeks throwing punches in the dark. Tomorrow, we'd flip the switch. Saturday morning broke with Page's most vicious assault yet, a full-scale character assassination that would have made Stalin proud. I woke to 17 missed calls and a text from my brother in New Jersey. "Why is there a blog saying you're under investigation for elder abuse? The anonymous blog Cedar Ridge Truth had gone viral overnight, featuring photos of my father looking frail, twisted captions suggesting neglect, and fabricated testimonials from concerned neighbors about dangerous conditions in our home. The kicker was a photoshopped image of Dad collapsed on the floor, created from a legitimate photo of him doing physical therapy. But Paige made a fatal error in her rage. She included specific medical information about Dad's prescriptions, details only someone who'd illegally accessed his mail could know. The blog literally contained evidence of federal crimes while trying to frame me for state ones. My phone rang non-stop as clients, friends, and relatives saw the lies. Maya's blood pressure spiked so high her doctor threatened immediate hospitalization. "She's trying to induce labor before tonight," Maya gasped between contractions. "She knows we won't leave if I'm in the hospital." By noon, the situation escalated beyond even Paige's usual evil. The doorbell rang. 2 police officers responding to a welfare check on my father. Behind them, I could see Paige's Mercedes parked across the street, her silhouette visible behind tinted windows like a vulture waiting for carry-on. "We received reports of screaming and sounds of violence," the younger officer said, hand resting on his weapon. Dad wheeled himself to the door with military precision. "Officers, I'm Vincenzo Santoro, retired staff sergeant, Purple Heart recipient. The only violence here is against the truth." What happened next was pure karma. The older cop studied Dad's face, then broke into a grin. Vince Santoro. Holy hell, you saved my uncle's life in '71. Jimmy Morrison, from the 25th Infantry." They embraced like long-lost brothers while Paige watched her false report literally turn into a reunion. Officer Morrison took detailed notes about the bogus report, muttering about people who waste police resources while real crimes happen. As they left, he handed me his card. "When you nail whoever's behind this, call me. False reports killed my partner's response time to a real domestic. This ___ costs lives." The afternoon brought intel from an unexpected source. Andrew Sloan, Paige's husband, standing at my door looking like a man who discovered his wife was a serial killer, which, financially speaking, wasn't far off. "I'm done covering for her," he said, handing me a thumb drive. "She's destroyed our finances, our reputation, our marriage. That drive has everything. HOA funds she stole, fake receipts, private investigator reports on neighbors, even recordings of her planning false CPS reports." His hands shook. "She promised it was just about protecting property values. I didn't know she was evil." The thumb drive was a prosecutor's treasure chest. Screenshots of HOA bank accounts showing transfers to Paige's personal shopping sprees. Emails planning coordinated harassment campaigns. Most damning, a spreadsheet tracking which neighbors to target based on race, religion, and military status, with notes like "Latinos lower property values" and "too many Asians on Oak Street." She'd documented her own hate crimes with the efficiency of a Nazi accountant. But the crown jewel was an audio file. Paige drunk at a wine club meeting, bragging about running out the undesirables and making Cedar Ridge pure again. Dr. Patel called an emergency pre-gala meeting at 4 p.m. 47 homeowners packed into my garage, which now smelled like justice and determination. "I've completed the forensic audit," he announced, projecting spreadsheets that made everyone gasp. Paige Whitfield Sloan has embezzled $247,000 over 8 years. But here's the beautiful part. She was sloppy. Every transaction is traceable, documented, indisputable. She used HOA credit cards for personal purchases, then filed false expense reports. That's wire fraud, tax evasion, and embezzlement, federal crimes with mandatory minimums. The room erupted in controlled fury. The Korean family revealed Paige had cost them $30,000 in legal fees fighting bogus violations. The Black veteran showed medical bills from stress-induced heart problems. The Jewish couple calculated $50,000 in lost property value from her harassment campaign. Together, we represented over $400,000 in damages, not counting the emotional toll. Gavin Chen stood with the gravity of a judge pronouncing sentence. "Tonight, we're not just towing a car. We're serving justice. Every camera, every witness, every document matters. She's going to prison, but first, she's going to be exposed." As the meeting ended, Dad rolled up to me, eyes bright with military precision. Logistics update. Weather's perfect. No rain to mess with the cameras. Mike confirmed 3 news crews attending. Rodrigo's in position with a backup truck in case she tries to flee in another vehicle. Iris says Paige plans to arrive at 7:45 for maximum entrance drama. He handed me a checklist with tactical efficiency. Oh, and son, your grandmother would be proud. Lucia always said the best revenge is served legally with multiple witnesses. The sun was setting on Paige's reign of terror. In 2 hours, she'd make her grand entrance to the gala in her white Mercedes, expecting worship and wine. Instead, she'd find 47 homeowners with cameras, a tow truck with her name on it, and enough legal documentation to wallpaper a federal prison. The blog posts, false reports, and intimidation tactics had been her extinction burst. The desperate flailing of a dictator who sensed the revolution coming. Tonight, the revolution would be televised, uploaded, and shared with every HOA in America as a warning. Paige thought she was untouchable. In 90 minutes, she'd learn the difference between untouchable and untouchable in prison. The Cedar Ridge Meadows annual gala kicked off at 7 p.m. in the community center, transformed with fairy lights and white tablecloths into Paige's personal throne room. 3 news crews mingled with 300 residents expecting a fluff piece about community togetherness. They had no idea they were about to witness the most explosive HOA meeting in YouTube history. I stood near the entrance with Dad, both of us in our best suits, watching Iris work the room like a spy in pearls, whispering updates through our group text. At 7:43, Paige's white Mercedes appeared like a shark fin slicing through dark water. She chose the fire lane directly in front of the main entrance. Maximum visibility for her grand entrance. Maximum illegality for ours. The universe handed us perfection when she spent 3 full minutes adjusting her makeup in the mirror, giving everyone time to position their cameras. Through the tinted glass, we could see her practicing her smile, unaware that 47 phones were already recording her final crime. She emerged from the Mercedes like she was stepping onto a red carpet, wearing a $5,000 sequined gown that sparkled like her delusions of grandeur. The smell of her perfume arrived 5 seconds before she did. Tonight, she'd apparently bathed in Chanel No. 5 and hubris. She swept past the no parking fire lane sign like it was a red carpet marker. Her heels clicked across the concrete in a rhythm that screamed, "I own this place." Behind her, the Mercedes sat illegally parked, expired registration sticker visible, one tire touching the yellow fire lane paint, a detail Rodrigo would later call poetic justice. Inside, she worked the room with realtor precision, air-kissing potential clients and accepting compliments like a queen receiving tribute. The news cameras captured her holding court, oblivious to the revolution brewing outside. At 8:15, Dr. Patel took the microphone for the evening's special presentation. Paige beamed in the front row, expecting praise. Instead, the projector lit up with HOA financial records that made the crowd gasp like they were watching a horror movie. "Ladies and gentlemen," Dr. Patel announced with prosecutorial calm, "I present 8 years of systematic embezzlement documenting $247,000 in stolen HOA funds." The screen showed receipts, Paige's Vegas trips charged as board retreats. Her Mercedes payments labeled community vehicle maintenance, her wine collection listed as meeting refreshments. The crowd murmured, then rumbled, then erupted as each slide revealed deeper corruption. Paige's face morphed from smug to shocked to furious, her sequins trembling with rage. "This is illegal," she shrieked, jumping up so fast her wine glass shattered on the floor. "You can't access those records without board approval." Gavin Chen stood smoothly, holding up documents. "Actually, we can. Page 73 of the bylaws you wrote states any 5 members can demand an emergency financial review if fraud is suspected. We have 47 signatures." The news cameras swiveled between Paige and the screen like they were filming a tennis match in hell. That's when Iris's text hit our phones. Showtime. Through the windows, Rodrigo's flatbed tow truck appeared like a chariot of justice, emergency lights painting the building red and blue. The driver, Rodrigo's best operator, a former Marine named Carlos, executed the approach with surgical precision. The crowd rushed to the windows, phones raised, as Carlos positioned the truck. Paige stood frozen, her brain struggling to process the reality unfolding outside. "That's my car," she screamed, shoving through the crowd in her designer heels. "You can't do this. I'm the president." She burst through the doors to find Carlos calmly attaching the wheel lift, every movement deliberate and legal. Rodrigo stood nearby with a clipboard documenting everything. "Ma'am, this vehicle is illegally parked in a fire lane on HOA common property with expired registration. Per HOA bylaws, Section 47C, and State Statute 28, 4839, we are authorized to impound." The news crews followed the chaos outside, cameras capturing Paige's meltdown in high definition. She grabbed Carlos's arm. Assault on camera. She kicked the tow truck. Property damage on camera. She screamed obscenities that would end any real estate career. Broadcast quality audio. "I know people," she shrieked. "I'll destroy your business. You ___ spics don't know who you're dealing with." The racial slur hung in the air like a fart in church. 300 people heard it. 3 news crews recorded it. The black reporter from Channel 7 turned to her cameraman. "Tell me you got that." He nodded, zooming in on Paige's face as she realized what she'd just done. Her real estate career ended in that moment, captured in 4K clarity. But the universe saved the best for last. As Carlos finished securing the Mercedes, a white sedan with official plates pulled up. 2 figures stepped out. A sheriff's deputy and a man in a suit holding federal credentials, the postal inspector Mike had promised, arriving with timing that felt like divine intervention. "Paige Whitfield Sloan," the deputy called. "We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of mail theft, wire fraud, and making false reports to Child Protective Services." The crowd gasped in unison, the sound of 300 people achieving catharsis. Paige tried to run, her sequined dress and heels betraying her, and made it exactly 4 steps before tripping on her own hubris and face-planting into the decorative bushes she'd once fined the Garcias for trimming incorrectly. The deputy helped her up, handcuffs glinting in the gala lights. "You have the right to remain silent," he began as every phone streamed the Miranda rights to Facebook Live. "Nico!" she screamed, mascara streaking down her face like toxic rivers. "You did this! You destroyed everything!" I stepped forward, Dad rolling beside me, and delivered the line I'd practiced for weeks. "No, Paige, you did this. We just made sure everyone saw it." The crowd erupted in applause that drowned out her continued shrieking. As the deputy guided her into the patrol car, her husband Andrew emerged from the crowd with a process server. "Paige, you're being served," he announced, handing divorce papers through the window. "And before you ask, yes, I'm keeping the house. Check the prenup clause about criminal convictions." The look on her face, captured by 17 different cameras, was Renaissance art painted in real-time karma. The Mercedes disappeared on Rodrigo's flatbed just as Paige vanished into the patrol car. 2 symbols of false power removed simultaneously. The news crews scrambled for interviews, but the story was already writing itself. HOA president arrested at gala after towing incident exposes years of crimes. Within an hour, #bye Paige was trending nationally. The revolution wasn't just televised. It went viral, hitting 2 million views before midnight. Justice had been served, with a side of public humiliation, garnished with federal charges, and live-streamed for the world to see. The dictator had fallen, and Cedar Ridge Meadows was finally free. The emergency HOA election happened right there in the community center, democracy rising from the ashes of Paige's empire, while the news cameras kept rolling. Iris Merriweather won by acclamation, not a single dissenting vote, and her first act as president was to motion for the reversal of all fines issued in the past 8 years pending review. The motion passed unanimously. Just like that, $400,000 in predatory fines evaporated, and you could actually hear people crying with relief. Within a week, the story exploded beyond anything we had imagined. The footage of Paige's arrest hit 2.3 million views, spawning thousands of memes and serving as a warning to HOA tyrants nationwide. The postal inspector's investigation revealed Paige had committed mail theft across 3 states, leaving a trail of destroyed neighborhoods. The federal prosecutor, a woman who'd clearly waited her entire career for a case this satisfying, charged Page with 47 counts ranging from wire fraud to civil rights violations. The plea deal spared taxpayers a trial. 2 years in federal prison, 3 years probation, and $300,000 in restitution. She was also permanently banned from serving on any HOA board, nonprofit, or community organization, the legal equivalent of taking away Voldemort's wand. The transformation of Cedar Ridge Meadows felt like watching a garden bloom after ripping out a field of weeds. Under Iris's leadership, we instituted radical transparency. All financial records posted online, monthly town halls, and every fine requiring a majority resident vote. The Korean family planted a stunning cultural garden where Page used to park illegally. The Patels hosted Diwali celebrations that lit up the entire neighborhood. Dad started a veteran support group that met weekly in the community center, no longer fearing harassment for unauthorized gatherings. My business didn't just recover, it exploded. Turns out being the guy who took down a corrupt HOA president was better marketing than any billboard. Clients specifically called requesting the contractor who fought Page, and my calendar was booked solid for 18 months. Maya safely delivered our daughter, Victoria. Yes, we named her after our victory, who entered the world with perfect timing 2 weeks after Page entered federal custody. Even Andrew Sloan became a client, hiring me to renovate the house he'd won in the divorce. "Least I can do," he said, signing the check. "Plus, I'm dating Dr. Patel's sister now. Life's funny like that." The ripple effects reached far beyond Cedar Ridge. Our story inspired 3 other neighborhoods to investigate their HOAs, uncovering similar corruption. A state legislator who lived just 2 streets over drafted Page's law, requiring HOA financial transparency and limiting presidential power. I testified at the state capitol, sharing our story with a room full of lawmakers who actually listened. The bill passed 97-3, proving that sometimes fighting one bully can protect thousands of future victims. 6 months later, I received a letter that made everything worthwhile. It was from Page's estranged daughter, who had cut ties years earlier after her mother reported her Hispanic boyfriend to ICE. "Thank you," she wrote. "My mother's arrest freed our whole family from her reign of terror. I'm in law school now studying housing discrimination law. The HOA scholarship helped me pay tuition. Ironic, right?" We had established the Lucia Santoro Memorial Scholarship, using recovered HOA funds, specifically for students fighting housing discrimination. Page's stolen money now funded lawyers who would prevent future Pages. Poetic justice at its finest. A year after the arrest, Cedar Ridge Meadows threw its first annual Freedom from Tyranny Festival. The smell of barbecue replaced the stench of fear. Children played in bounce houses where Page's Mercedes once blocked driveways. Neighbors actually talked to one another without checking for violations. Dad manned the grill, regaling everyone with war stories, both from Vietnam and from our HOA battles. Iris, our 83-year-old president, worked the crowd like a beloved grandmother, which she'd become to half the neighborhood. The festival featured a special guest. James Martinez, the CPS investigator who'd helped expose Page's false reports. He presented a workshop on recognizing harassment disguised as concern, empowering families to fight back against weaponized bureaucracy. "What happened here," he told the crowd, "should be taught in every civics class. You prove that ordinary citizens can stand up to corruption and win." I found Rodrigo by the beer tent, his tow truck parked nearby with a sign. "The truck that towed tyranny photos $5, proceeds to Veteran Center." We'd raised $3,000 by mid-afternoon. "Best tow of my career," he grinned, clinking beers. "Though I hear Page is working at a mall kiosk now, selling phone cases. Tried to cite a customer for having the wrong brand." We laughed, but it was tinged with pity. Some people never learn. As the sunset painted the sky, I stood with Maya and our kids, watching our neighbors celebrate freedom from fear. Dad rolled up baby Victoria on his lap, both wearing matching HOA survivor t-shirts Iris had made. "You know," he said, surveying the scene, "your grandmother would have loved this. Lucia always said the best revenge against bullies is a life well lived, in spite of them." He was right. We'd won more than a battle against a corrupt HOA president. We'd built a community that looked out for one another, that celebrated differences instead of punishing them, that understood the true meaning of home values had nothing to do with property prices, and everything to do with human dignity. "Hey everyone," I called out, raising my beer. "Got a horror story about your HOA? Drop it in the comments. The worst one gets featured in next week's video. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell, because next time we're exposing the HOA that tried to ban American flags. You won't believe how that one ends." The crowd cheered, phones already typing their own tales of suburban tyranny. Because here's the truth. I learned fighting Paige. Your home is your castle, but knowledge is your sword and shield. Every bylaw she wrote to oppress us became the weapon we used to defeat her. Every document she falsified became evidence. Every neighbor she terrorized became a witness. In the end, the very rules she worshipped became the chains that dragged her to federal prison. And that, my friends, is how you make a tyrant's car, career, and control disappear for good. Thank you for tuning in to HOA Stories, where neighbors stand up against HOA bullies and karma comes knocking. If you liked this story, hit that like button, share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more real-life neighborhood drama every week.